My name's Zavis, and I am an attorney and mediator in Bellingham, Washington. And I've been an attorney since 1990. And one of the other things that I do in my work is I share nonviolent communication, and what I also prefer to call actually compassionate communication with people. And so my work is about helping people learn to communicate, collaborate, and resolve conflicts. And the way I came into this work is, well, I was originally a public defender. And I remember distinctly a case when I was literally beating my head against, what felt like to me, beating my head against a brick wall. And I realized I can't do this anymore. And about a few months later, I quit, as I just realized I couldn't. They were not identifying at all with my client's experiences and my client's life experience. And just literally the prosecuting attorney said, well, I have the law on my side. And I thought, yeah, but there's people's lives hanging in the balance here, and that's not all about the law. And so I quit being a public defender and took some time off and actually did some ropes coursework and led kids on ropes courses and just got out of that world. And then this job came up that I applied for to be an attorney at a women's rights organization in Seattle, Washington, the Northwest Women's Law Center. And it was like, it just happened to fall on my plate, and so I took it. And it was a great job because I got to integrate litigation and legislative advocacy and education and outreach, which really pulled on a lot of my skills that I like to integrate. So that was very exciting for me. And then I picked up and moved to Vancouver, BC, and I had my kids in the meantime, and went and got my master's degree in women's studies. And there's validity in everyone having their needs or what's important to them being tabled, being aired. And but how do we do that? How do we do that in a way that's effective? And that's where I came to find eventually nonviolent communication, also through some political action, direct action work, nonviolent work that I did. So that's where I came to find nonviolent communication. And as soon as I found it, I felt like I was back home. It was like, this is always what I've meant to be doing, and it's what I tried to do and didn't have anybody sharing it when I was a child. So for me, it became a very natural integration, and I took training in California. Then I ended up doing trainings for parents. In the meantime, I'm not practicing law at all. And then I come back to the practice of law, and I was doing mediations. Then I started to do mediations using nonviolent communication as the umbrella. And then I came back to law once I found collaborative law, because then that was more in alignment with my values. Those values being ways to resolve conflict that is peaceful. And my oldest son says, I'm not a hater, I'm a lover. And I feel like, well, me too. I want to create peaceful situations and peaceful ways to resolve conflicts, but that also really allow people to have their emotional experience. And so I try to create and contain a space that acknowledges and validates that there are intense emotions experienced in our lives, and particularly in divorces, and that those are real. And we can't just pretend they don't exist, because they're just going to become bigger and bigger until they're heard. It's like the small child who says, "Mommy, mommy," and mommy's busy and doesn't respond to the child, and then the child just gets louder and louder and louder, and then we get frustrated with the child. And I'm not at all saying mom was wrong. I'm just saying, had mom turned to the child and just acknowledged, "Oh, you're wanting my attention, I'll be with you in a minute as soon as I finish this conversation," often that's enough. So it's the same thing with emotions. If we don't acknowledge them and just give them a moment of breath, of air, it's like then they're gasping for air. And so to gasp for air, they scream louder or something to get more air in. It's not very effective. It doesn't usually get them what they want, but nonetheless, that's what we do. So I share nonviolent communication now, which is really fun for me, with lawyers and other collaborative professionals. And it's this cool blend for me of these different aspects of my life. So it's like I haven't turned my back on the legal profession or on my legal career, and instead I've found a way to integrate it into my being and my soul that's really an integrity for me. Nonviolent communication, or compassionate communication, is a way to communicate, to build connection. And the way I see it is that the goal of nonviolent communication is to establish connection before we try to find outcomes. So usually what we try to do is create the solution. We have a dilemma, we have a problem. Okay, I want this and you want that. And we engage in this, what we call nonviolent communication, strategy-based negotiation. So I want a red piece, we have a red and orange piece of candy, and you want the orange and I want the red, or we both want the orange. Now we're in this stuck position. So in nonviolent communication, we're going to talk about why is the orange important to you? I mean, it's a silly example, but what is it about orange that's so important? I happen to really enjoy the taste of orange, and actually the taste of cherry is kind of sour. Why is it important to you? Oh, I actually like both equally. I just kind of was excited about the orange one today. So, okay. So it's a way to get underneath the strategies or positions that people hold to the underlying needs, and to distinguish really clearly between the strategies and those needs. So the needs are those universal needs that are important to everyone. And there's kind of a few core ones. Autonomy. So with my son, he wanted to be able to choose what he was going to do and when he was going to do it. Respect. So that, we want to be treated with respect and acknowledged for who we are and what we've done in this world. And everybody is different and does things differently, but we all want to be respected for the role we play in the world and in our lives. We also, appreciation. Acknowledgement and appreciation for the gifts that we bring to the world. Obviously food, shelter, and water, some of the basic human needs. And then also the need for interconnectedness, that need for connection with others. Our affiliations, the groups that we are, the families, the communities, those are kind of the general categories. And in nonviolent communication, we list under those general categories a whole bunch of other needs. Another general category would be the need for meaning, purpose in our life, to be fulfilled. And then there's the needs that kids always say. If you ask kids what's most important, play and fun, of course. Which is funny when I do with parents or adults, they almost always forget that need, which I always remind them. And those are the general categories. And so in nonviolent communication, or in compassionate communication, what we try to do is get in touch with what are the underlying needs that are really driving this dilemma, or driving my own internal dilemma. And so the way I like to think of it is, for me, the first step in nonviolent communication is becoming self-aware of myself, what's going on inside of me, and doing that without judgment. So we call that self-empathy. So self-awareness without judgment. And how do we do that? So somebody says something to me or responds to me in a way that I'm judging myself. Maybe I think I'm a really bad lawyer because actually I didn't get as good deals I should have. Now I'm judging myself, which feels awful. But I believe we judge ourselves because we want to grow and change. But I have no trust and hope that judging ourselves actually leads us to grow and change. But if I ask myself, wow, what am I disappointed about, or what's going on for me? Okay, maybe I'm feeling disappointed because I really want to do the best job I can, because I care about my clients and I want to contribute. And so that's my self-awareness without judgment, my self-empathy. So you really want to contribute. Okay, maybe now what you see is there's a little bit more education you need to have in order to contribute more fully. So now I can take some steps to more fully meet my needs for contribution. So that's what the self-empathy piece looks like to me. And I like to think of this as a tree, and I appreciate one of my trainers, Imbal Kashtin, for giving this image to us. So I like to start in the roots of the tree, that being self-empathy, my self-awareness without judgment. Because I can't possibly begin, if I'm in a dilemma with you or a conflict with you, to explore what your needs are if I haven't first explored it myself. And someone today just said to me, it's like the oxygen on a plane. They say, put the oxygen on yourself first before you put it on the person next to you. Well, that's because you can't breathe unless you do that. And so it's the same thing. I can't possibly breathe and give you empathy unless I've given myself some empathy first. I can't bring non-judgmental awareness to your experience unless I've brought it to mine, because I'm also probably in judgment of you.